With liberty and justice for all. Will you please remain standing for a moment of silence for those in our armed forces defending our country and those who have lost their lives in doing so. And in a very special way, we remember Charles Bryant, a Suffern Volunteer Hose Company member for many, many years, who lost his battle with a health issue and will be dearly missed. Also, husband of Lynn Bryant here at Village Hall. Thank you. Good evening. Welcome to the Suffern Village Board meeting. Can I find my agenda? You got it? I do. No, I have it. I have it buried under everything else. I got it. Okay, we will set the dates for the April meetings. The workshop will be on Thursday, April 2nd. Please take note of the change. The workshop will be Thursday, April 2nd at 7 p.m. And the board meeting will be Monday, April 6th at 7:30 p.m. Please take notice of the change of the workshop meeting. First, we will have the fire department. Chief Stark.
Good evening, Mayor and Board. 4 things on the agenda this evening. First one is a fundraiser at the Hose Company on Kentucky Derby Day. That's on May 2nd from 3 to 10. Second one is going to be a breakfast at the Hook and Ladder on March 29th. Third item is a request for approval for the preliminary LoSAP for 2014. And the last item is new member of the Hose Company, Kyle Conklin, age 16.
Okay. Mike, on the request for the approval of the preliminary LoSAP, you're going to post them for 30 days, is that correct?
Once the board approves it, then it gets posted for 30 days, and I come back next month for the final.
Okay. The board did not see the program until we just got it at the workshop today. So I don't have a problem with it. I've looked it over, but if the board members have any objection, we may not be able to approve it tonight. So as far as the fundraisers go, unless the board has any comment or concern about them, we really don't need to vote on those. So the preliminary LoSAP report for 2014, would anybody like to make a motion to approve them?
I make a motion.
Yeah.
Do I have a second?
I'll second it.
Okay, Mr. Morris.
Aye.
Mr. Hagen.
Yes.
And Mr. Markunas.
Yes.
And I vote yes, motion is carried.
Thank you.
And for the new Hose Company member, Kyle Conklin, do I have a motion?
I'll make a motion.
Do I have a second?
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? So moved. Good luck with the fundraisers.
Thank you.
Culture and Recreation, Kathy Mills.
Good evening, Mayor. Good evening, Village Board. A few items that we have coming up. On every Tuesday, up at Leo Leiden, between 10 and 2, AARP is doing tax preparations. It's open to the public. We have on March 5th and March 19th, Artie Time. It's a senior art class. It's free to the seniors. And we have it again on the 5th and the 19th at 11:30 over at the Community Center. We have a Girl Scout event this coming Friday, March 6th at the Community Center between 6 p.m. and 8 p.m. We have a Recreation Board meeting on Thursday, March 12th upstairs in the Community Room. We have a reception over at the Community Center on Saturday, March 14th for a World War II Veterans reception. We'll be following the movie over at the Lafayette Theater. We have a family night for Vanderbilt Central School District on Monday, March 16th at the Community Center between 6 and 9 p.m. There will be a dare dance. It will be on Friday, March 20th at 7 to 9 in the Community Center. We have our first public event. It will be the Easter egg hunt on Saturday, March 28th at 9 a.m. at the gazebo, and then breakfast with the bunny at the community center. So early welcome to that. One thing I have to ask for, the reception, which will be held at the community center, they have requested to have alcohol at the event, so I'm requesting from the board on their behalf to either approve or deny alcohol at that reception.
Okay, if I do have a motion to approve that, it would be subject to the proper insurance, naming the village as additionally insured, and approval of our village attorney that the insurance that has been submitted is acceptable for the village to be covered for such an event. Do I have a motion?
I'll make a motion.
Do I have a second?
I'm serious.
Second?
Second.
On the veterans.
Okay, Mr. Morris?
Yes.
Mr. Hagen?
Yes.
Mr. Markunas?
Yes.
And I vote yes, motion is carried.
Okay, thank you.
Do you want me to read them off, Kathy, or you have them?
I'm sorry?
Do you want me to read the fees off, or you have them?
I haven't, but if you could, that would be great.
Okay, so we are discussing the fee schedule proposal for the fees for the different facilities here in the village. It has been proposed by the board that the following be adopted. For the community room, which is upstairs here in Village Hall, for a nonprofit resident, that would be no charge. For a personal use resident, it would be $75. For the Leo Leiden on Sylvan Way, a nonprofit resident would be no fee. And for a personal use resident would be $50 an hour. For the auditorium here at Village Hall, for nonprofit, it would be no fee. For a personal use for a resident, it would be $150. For the community center, for a nonprofit resident, it would be no charge. For a personal use resident, it would be $50 an hour, plus $50 cleanup and $75 towards utilities. Do I have a motion to adopt?
I'll make the motion to adopt.
Do I have a second?
Second.
Mr. Morris?
Yes.
Mr. Hagen?
Yes.
Mr. Markunas?
Yes.
And I vote yes, motion is carried. With regards to the pool fees for the pool for this coming season, children's fee, ages 5 through 16, will increase from $45 to $55. For adults, ages 17 to 59, the increase will be from $60 to $70. And for seniors, 60 years and older, they will still remain free. And swim registration will be from $25 to $35. Do I have a motion to accept?
Make a motion.
Do I have a second?
Second.
Mr. Morris?
Yes.
Mr. Hagen?
Yes.
Mr. Markunas?
Yes.
And I vote yes, motion is carried.
Okay, thank you, Mayor.
Thank you, Kathy.
That's done.
Not yet. No, not quite. Grant writer.
Okay. The $65,000 water well grant from the Dormitory Authority of the State of New York, that's in the due diligence process, and that's moving along nicely, and hoping to have the contract within the next 30 to 45 days. The DARE program was awarded $3,000 from the Division of Criminal Justice Services, and I'm working with the chief and helping to secure that fund for equipment and supplies for the DARE program. Ellen Jaffe, the $250,000 for the capital funding project for the Orange Avenue emergency crossing over into the West Ward during times of flooding, for example, when you can't get to the West Ward through the underpasses. That's a $250,000 project. That's with the Ways and Means Committee up in New York, and they asked for a little more due diligence in ensuring that the state of New Jersey was also willing to move forward with this program, and we sent them a letter last week stating such, so we're hoping that we'll get the okay on that project shortly. With Assemblywoman Ellen Jaffe, put in for approximately around $100,000 of varying items. Whether or not they get awarded or not, I don't know, but put in for the fire department for 5 self-contained breathing apparatus units, and also an all-terrain vehicle for the police department, 4 computer setups, and for the DARE program for this year, an additional $3,000 for equipment and supplies. For the recreation department, put in for $7,000 for Suffern Day, which is on September 26th this year, for fireworks. Normally, we get that through Assemblywoman Rabbit, as I explained earlier, but she's no longer within our jurisdiction, so I'm asking Assemblywoman Jaffe for that. And then also for the Clifford Theater, $3,000. And then finally, we got the official notification that for the second year in a row, we are Tree City USA. We do a little Arbor Day celebration. Arbor Day is always the last Friday in April. This year, that's April 24th, but we might be doing it on the weekend. Okay?
Thank you, Fred. Okay, it is 7:45. We have a public hearing, a continuation, but I received late this afternoon a request from Orange Avenue Associates via their attorney to adjourn the public hearing and continue it until the next regularly scheduled board meeting, so I would need a motion for that.
I make a motion.
7:45, okay with you, Bob?
Yes.
Yeah,
Okay. Do I have a second?
second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Okay, we will continue the public hearing at 7:45 on the next board meeting, which is April 6th. Okay, village attorney has nothing. Police department.
Thank you, Mayor and Board. I just have a couple of very few items just to for information. I don't think we need to vote on anything, but number one is we had a commercial vehicle school. We had 5 officers attend last week, a 3-day course. They're now going to be doing a lot more commercial vehicle enforcement and checks starting within the next month. Secondly, we were contacted by the Elks today. 2 village residents who are members of the Elks have asked us to participate in a walkout on drugs, which will be a walk from the RP Conning School or the LPL. We're going to meet on the details this week. 2 of the Elks will have a free barbecue and hopefully a day of emergency services vehicles working with our fire department. I'll talk to Mike about it and with Marwa. I think it's a great thing for our community. One thing we don't have a problem with is getting people involved, and we actually look forward to getting a lot of residents and a lot of children involved in this. And the last is the DARE grant. I want to thank Fred. That's going to supply 23 of our teams. We have 23 teams for DARE hockey in the village alone. That will supply them with helmets and needed equipment. So thank you, Fred. And that's all I have.
Thank you, Chief. Thank you.
If I may, Chief?
Sure.
I just want to clear the air here. I know there are a lot of concerned citizens here and residents of the village in regards to the police department.
Okay.
I really want to make it loud and clear that there is no discussion or means or anything in the works to merge Ramapo Police Department or consolidate, whatever term you want to use, that there is nothing from this board being generated.
Okay.
I want to thank the Suffern Police Department for doing an outstanding job, for working in the community, working with the DARE program, working with the residents. You guys are second to none.
Thank you, Ed.
That is my stance on the Suffern Police Department.
Thank you, Ed. Thank you.
Okay, Department of Public Works, Charles Sawicki.
Good evening, Mayor and the Board. I have 2 training items for tonight. Authorization for Mr. Scott Brown to attend the CSEA Peer Trainer course on April 7th through April 10th. This course is being offered by CSEA in Warren County, New York, at no cost to the village.
Do I have a motion?
I make a motion.
Do I have a second?
Second.
Okay, Mr. Morris?
Yes.
Mr. Hagen?
Yes,
Mr. Markunas?
Yes.
And I vote yes, motion is carried.
Authorization for Mr. Stan Dobrinsky and Mr. John Conklin to attend the Water Distribution Safety, Security, and Maintenance course held on March 17th, 2015 in Wappinger Falls, New York, at no cost to the village.
I'll make a motion.
Do I have a second?
second.
Mr. Morris?
Yes.
Mr. Hagen?
Yes.
Mr. Markunas?
Yes.
And I vote yes, motion is carried.
That's it, thanks.
Thank you. Okay, we are up to the audience participation portion of our meeting. If you would like to speak, please come up to the microphone, state your name and address for the record.
Good evening, Mayor and Board. Tom Zodan, 249 Parkside Drive, Suffern, New York. Mayor, as you know, when we had our meeting about my retirement, the only question you asked me was, did I make photocopies or take any records belonging to the village? That was the only question you asked me. But I'm just surprised that you didn't ask me about the finances of the village at that time, or how the accounting operation works. Could you, tell me why you didn't ask?
You can finish your comments, and our attorney will answer any questions that you have, Tom.
Well, why would he? He wasn't there. Why would he know the answer to that question?
You can finish your comments.
Okay. All right. Now, why didn't you have the new treasurer contact me about the finances, so I could explain to him what our financial plan was? I could explain to him where things were, including bank reconciliations, etc. Why didn't you have him contact me? After he told you he couldn't find the bank reconciliations, why didn't you have him contact me and ask me? I could have told him where they were. But lo and behold, no one contacted me, so right away run out and spend $9,000 to have someone do them. Okay. Now, let me explain how the operation worked with the bank reconciliations. In the village, all the checks are written from the general fund for the most part. There are some checks written, payroll checks, through trust and agency accounts, and taxes and benefits. They are written out and they are reconciled monthly by the deputy treasurer. For the operating accounts, the checks are written out of the general fund. There's very little activity in the debt service, in water fund, sewer fund, and the capital fund, especially the fact that no checks are written. So each month it's very easy to reconcile the bank accounts because there's no checks written, so the only thing that really happens is there's an interest payment from the bank. So what happened, I set up the accounts so that when the bank statements would come in 2 or 3 days after the end of the month, there's one journal entry listing all the accounts. You just plug in the interest payment and book it, and now, voila, the accounts reconcile. So when you take the bank statement and then you look at the general ledger, they reconcile, they're even. So for most accounts, I don't sit down, or I didn't sit down, and make up a sheet of paper that says general ledger equals bank statement, because it was obvious. Okay? Now, the water fund was a little different in that checks are deposited into the water fund. So there was a bank reconciliation done every month. Now, I don't know if your treasurer told you that they've been found, but they have been found. Okay? And they were reconciled. Also, the general fund bank recs were found. They were reconciled. Apparently, they can't find the paperwork with all the reconciliations, but if you look at the general ledger and you look at the bank statements, you will see all the notations and all the journal entries that were required to be made were made. Okay? All this could have been explained if you had just called or emailed me. I could have took care of it, explained how everything worked. You wouldn't have had to run out and spend money and get someone to do the work. Okay. Okay, now, they keep harping on the audit. Well, first of all, as some people might know, an audit's not required by New York State. That's just one thing, okay? But an audit is good accounting practice, plus the banks and our lending agencies want to see audits, okay? When I left, we had a draft financial statement prepared. And it was actually handed out to some banks, and so there is evidence that it's there, and we do have copies of it. Well, I don't, but you guys should have a copy. Now, as far as someone saying, oh, there was only 50% of the work done, I find it hard to believe, since the auditors were here, did all their field work, and issued draft financial statements. And the fact that I was told that it was 95% complete by the partner in charge at the time makes me a little hesitant, okay? All right, now, as for the departure from GAP, okay. We were audited when I was here 9 times, 9 times. Never once was there a mention of a departure from GAP by the auditors. Okay? It would have been in our financial statements, but it wasn't. What I believe the departure from GAP that they're talking about is what the treasurer, I believe, is going to hire a company to do tonight, and that is, what they do is they project what the future medical benefits cost is. And they put a paragraph in our financial statements and says, okay, based on today, the future cost for medical benefits for the employees and retirees is $15 million, or whatever the number is. And that's what goes in the financial statements. Okay, it has no effect on our fund balance, our deficit, or anything like that. Okay. Now, I was surprised to hear that apparently the board, and obviously other than the mayor, his board members weren't here, so they wouldn't have received management letter comments in 2010, 2011. But if you go back to the minutes, you will see that I believe it was in 2012, based on the auditor report and management letter comments, the Village of Suffern approved an audit committee which consisted of Trustee Charles Fasiglia and Deputy Mayor Joe Corrigan at the time. And this is also in the minutes of the meetings, so I don't understand why people are saying no one knew. Okay. Now, we had a financial plan to get us through this year, but it was never, when I left, no one asked me about it. The treasurer never contacted me about it, so it was not like we didn't have a plan. We had a plan. Okay. Now, budgeting. I understand that knocking the budgeting, but as all the department heads here know and the mayor knows, when we did the budgeting, we went over every line item in the budget. And I must commend, I mean, everyone did a good job, but the fire department was the most incredible budgeting that I've ever seen. I mean, these guys, when they said, we need, look at a line item like HVAC, air compressor things, and I'd say, all right, what is this? And he says, oh, we need 6 of them. They're $199, so we put in $1,200. And every item in their budget, he had exact detail of what every penny was being spent on. I mean, it was amazing. But the other budgets were very good, and like I said, we sat down. I don't know what more you can do when you sit down and go over every line item in detail with every department head. Now, I was critiqued on my one-page financial plan, I guess, if you want to call it that, for the water and sewer fund. Well, the auditors approved that plan numerous times. The board approved the plan numerous times. Now, all of a sudden, it's just one little piece of paper that doesn't work. But yet, the reality is, there's only a couple things that you can change to close a deficit, One is increased revenue, the other one is decreased expenses. But it's very difficult to decrease expenses when you're already cut to the bone. So what we had done was we built in a rate increase that would be set aside to reduce the deficit. So based on that question, how did the water fund do for the year ending 2014? Does anyone know? It's very simple. It'll take about 5 minutes to figure out. So when you get some answers, hopefully that's in there. Now, all these things that you guys said I did or didn't do or did poorly, I didn't have a chance to clarify this, and none of this would have came up if you just would have made a phone call to me. We could have resolved these issues. We could have saved the village some money and lots of time, and I'm sure the employees here are working even harder trying to put stuff together that they could have just solved with a phone call. So since you guys have been disparaging my name in the paper, okay, a couple times, and at board meetings, I would like an apology from the mayor, the treasurer, and your outside attorney, who was the first to speak up to the newspaper about saying that I was being investigated, which I wasn't. Okay? In addition, when I retired, we had an agreement, and we were just waiting to get some dates changed on it, because it was sent to me with the wrong dates, and that's why it never got signed. But I would like to get my back pay that I'm due. And then lastly, we're a little tight for revenue, so I was just wondering, there's this red tow truck that we store in our facilities that doesn't belong to the village. Is that somebody else's truck? Do they pay rent or anything? Do we have some kind of agreement on that? There's a lot of things more that I could ask and discuss, and maybe I'll have to ask in the future if I don't get any satisfaction, but that's it for now.
Thank you.
Is there any response?
What year did you leave, Mr. Zillian? What year did you leave?
I left in July of 2014.
The 2013 audit was at what stage then?
Okay, here's the story behind it. It was about 95% complete. And what happened was, I was given a list of 7 or 8 items. And lo and behold, I call up the audit company, and the lady in charge of the audit was out on maternity leave. They said she'll be back, in a couple of weeks. All right. So I was in the midst of a lot of other things, especially with New York State. And so when I called back a few weeks later, lo and behold, she's no longer with the firm. So now I'm like, well, who's going to, finish this audit? Who's going to, wrap this up? So all of a sudden, one of the fellows from the firm that had worked on it the first year they took over, he takes over and says, hey, I want all these different things. And the bulk of it has to be is what they call the GASB conversion, where you take fund accounting and you turn it into generally accepted accounting principles type, regular accounting. Well, he wanted me to do this, but yet we paid them $4,000 extra to do it. It's part of the agreement that we have with them. And this all came up right at the end of when I was going to leave.
So to comply with the auditing firm's request for the government accounting standard, that's what was missing and delaying the audit?
Yes, that's basically, the bulk of what's missing is this GASB conversion.
Right. So that was not supplied due to the fact that the person handling the account at the firm was out on maternity leave?
First she was out on maternity leave, and then all of a sudden she was gone from the firm. And now, if you know, the firm itself, a whole bunch of their partners and stuff left. They left the firm, yeah. So I don't know what's up with them. I would assume that the audits should be done by now. It's another 8 months gone by since I left. But the other thing is that the audit shouldn't be holding up any financial, like being able to tell you what the results for the year ending 2014. It should not be holding anything up, because the audit is just a review of the numbers and procedures that were done to make sure that they're being done properly and the numbers are reflected accurately. It's not that they're going to come in and say, oh, you know, you said you made 100,000, but you made 300,000, or you lost 400,000. That's not really what's going to happen. And like I said, the numbers were already given out. They were, by the audit company, and so that's not really something that would delay you from moving forward. Like the report that should have been sent to New York State by September 30th, the AUD report, that could have been done, but it wasn't done for whatever reason. I don't know about it because I read in the paper that we didn't submit the report. But
are you talking about to the controller?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
Now, can you complete a
Yes.
following year's audit without the previous
Yes.
year's audit?
Yes. Yes. Well, you can't. You can do the controller's report. That can keep on going. You can, without an audit, it doesn't matter.
You don't need
an audit to do the controller's report.
Okay. Can you complete a following year's audit without having the previous year's audit completed on the audit?
Well, generally they don't like to do that because they want the opening balance numbers to have been audited. So you don't generally skip that, but they can do that because they can audit the opening numbers. Even if they don't have the, say, 2013 audited financial statements, they can audit the opening numbers, and if they're satisfied with the opening balance sheet numbers, then they can complete the 2014 audit. Yes, that's how it will be done.
Thank you.
Okay. Any other questions? Thank you.
Mike, would you like to say a few words?
First of all, Mayor and Board, I'd like to first say that I stand by everything I've said to anybody about anything that I found in the accounting department, the treasurer's office, that was not as it should have been. And I'll start by saying this. Long before I started here, there was an audit of the 2012 financial statements. That ends May 31, 2012, and the auditors issued their comment letter sometime around September of 2013. In that letter, they note the following things. And this is about the audit overview in the Treasurer's office. There is no systematic method of ensuring that timely and complete yearly reconciliation and closing procedures take place. This situation leads to a continuing and growing backlog of transactions and journal entries that are not posted into the accounting system in a timely manner, which causes delays in the start date of the audit. This accounting function disorganization may ultimately cause significant delays and errors in the financial records and financial statements, as well as allow possible irregularities, including fraud, to exist and to continue without notice. They go on to say, and I'm just taking out excerpts from the letter, during our audit, we noted that detailed schedules supporting general ledger accounts did not always agree with the general ledger balances. This approach is basic, and such differences simply should not exist. At the time of the audit, the village treasurer lacked in preparing schedules, reconciling accounting records, and providing supporting documentation in a manner that would have made the audit process efficient. They go on to say, we noted that the village's accounting and reporting processes are being significantly delayed. Constant problems in receiving accurate numbers for the year-end audit can significantly impact the delay and timing of the issuing of the financial statements. We noted that the village had difficulty locating existing records that were required as part of the audit process. The availability of records and documentation can be critical in the village in the event of an audit by federal agencies, a lawsuit, an insurance claim, or any other circumstances. And then they finally close it out by saying, we made numerous comments in prior years' management letters where matters deemed to be reportable conditions were cited. The village has made none of these recommended changes. Now, just to comment on a couple of other things that was said. First of all, you do require a certified audit. You issue bonds. When you issue bonds, you have an official statement that's signed off on. That official statement has a promise in it that you will issue financial statements, have them audited, and they would be published and available for the bondholders and other interested parties to review. There was a claim that the audit was 95% done. Well, that's not according to the audit firm. And it wasn't according to the audit firm when I got in and started working on it. Furthermore, departures from GAAP. There's a claim that there were no departures from GAAP and it wasn't mentioned anywhere. I would beg you to look at the financial statements for 2011 and 2012 and you'll see that there were departures from GAAP. In fact, 2 departures from GAAP where they issued what was known as a qualified statement, a qualified opinion, which said that they were, the financial statements, fairly presented in all material respects except for these items that were not in accordance with GAAP. Now, why are we hiring an actuary to do one of these things? Because one of those departures from GAAP was, as was mentioned, other post-employment benefits, and actuarial analysis or valuation of the same. That is required, and the reason why the auditors would not give a qualified opinion on it now is because when we issued the bonds in 2012, there was a statement made in the official statement on record by the village saying that we are engaging an actuary to complete that study and have it available for the financial statements. That is why that is needed for the 2013 financial statements. As far as the financial plan for the water and sewer, I could not locate a copy of it here in the village. I called the State Comptroller's office. The State Comptroller's office told us that it was not a workable plan. And finally, as far as budget and line items go, I pointed out to the village that there are certain things in the budget as it was adopted that were just items that would not be practical to put into a budget. For instance, a revenue source as a bond anticipation note. Without going into too much technicality about it, a bond anticipation note can only serve as a revenue if it is almost immediately then going to be converted into a long-term bond. So these are some of the things I've noted in memos to the board, other things that I've found across in my work with the village. I will say without a doubt, and it is quite clear to me that things were not reconciled, things were not done on a timely basis, and we are still catching up on some things that we're finding as we come across various accounts.
Thank you, Mike.
Mr. Janito, I would like to thank you also and commend you on your hard work and the time you allotted to the board, to myself in particular, in explaining the details involved. It's not just a run-of-the-mill checking a checkbook, but Mr. Janito has thoroughly explained a lot of this information that is out there, and I really do thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you, Mike.
Thank you.
Okay, would anybody else like to speak?
Evening, Mike Sanford, 10 Interstate Street. My first comment was about, I noticed during the workshop, you were talking about the take-home vehicle situation. I would agree that obviously I think the village should have a policy on that, of course, but I think it was a little radical all of a sudden to just say, all right, as of tonight, we'll vote on this and we'll take everyone's vehicles home. Or, they can't take them home, they're all gone. I think, the board could have talked about it a little bit, maybe talked with each department head, met with the DPW, the chief, the recreation, said, what vehicles do you have out there? Do you have any policies? The chief may have a policy on take-home vehicles. I don't think anyone even checked on it. I know it doesn't have to do with the police department, but the DPW, I would consider them, Joe Hunt is an emergency responder for any street emergencies. I've seen it on my street. It's not like you give Joe some nice truck that costs a ton of money, but he's always out there. I've seen him on a Saturday when there's a manhole cover popped off. Joe's there within 5 minutes, repairs it, saves you a bunch of money. If you want, from now on, have, somebody, the police department will call the DPW, they'll respond down to the building, all on overtime. You got Joe out there in a truck and he's taking care of it right away. So just a thought, I think that maybe you guys could talk to the department heads and see what you got and maybe, work this out instead of just saying this is over tonight. I agree with the policy. The other thing I wanted to bring up was some things about last meeting. I was really concerned after, I think everyone here, a lot of people were, about the vote on the attorney, $200 an hour. A lot of people felt a little, I think hurt by it. Trustee Markunas, I know some people had you laughing on social media about it. I don't know what the context was, but the video, didn't make us look good in the village. The next thing was the financial restructuring board. My question to the whole board is, is anyone aware that if you are going to accept grant money, if you're working with them, you're now contractually bound to their recommendations? So I appreciate what you said before. I'm glad you cleared it up with the police department and your thoughts on it. But if you go forward with this, it may not matter. You may not have this say in it if you guys go along and decide to take money or have them help you. You may end up being contractually bound to do what they, what they want. And we voted you as the board. I want you running what's going to happen here. I don't want the restructuring board saying what's going to happen if they're going to talk about consolidating our fire department, our DPW, our recreation department. Like I said, you may not want the police department, but they may have different plans for us. And if you read their website, they basically they're pretty plain and simple about that they're into consolidation. That's the standard that New York State's trying to go to. And they've even gone as, as far as to dissolve villages and recommend dissolving villages. I'd hate to see that happen. I hate to see us just become another unincorporated area of the town of Ramapo. Suffern's pretty special. Thank you. My other feelings with this board is, worrying about it, is I just feel like, I don't know why we're in such a hurry, maybe, to get in bed with the town of Ramapo. We've seen financial problems they've had. They're still having problems. They had millions of dollars that they took from their own police fund to pay their bills, and the comptroller had a problem because they weren't paying it back still last year. They never paid it back. I just don't understand where we get this allegiance from. I really think we need to start gearing, and I wish as a board, every one of you would start, why don't we start questioning, what are we paying $1.5 million from them? I wish one of you guys would say, maybe we should look into, maybe we need to look into, say, just like we get our property taxes, adjusted. I'd like you as a board to say, what are we getting for this $1.5 million? Maybe it should keep it here. Spend it on us, and that would really help our situation. I feel like, even if we get into other services within the town, I can't imagine anyone in this room, especially after the whole war vote, could believe that whatever money we would give the town of Ramapo, you would get back in services to the Village of Suffern. If you believe that, I'll sell you a ballpark on the other side of town. Because it's not going to happen. I can assure you now, and I think anybody in here will tell you, the town of Ramapo needs the Village of Suffern more than the Village of Suffern needs the town of Ramapo. The Village of Suffern is their identity. I just want to urge you to keep working with Mr. Janito and keep moving forward. I understand there's a lot of things to work out, but please move forward. Like I said, I'm just concerned about this allegiance to the town and why are we going this way after all we've seen them go through and the problems they're having. Like I said, we're going to end up, we would be a cash cow for them, the Village of Suffern. Everyone here knows it. They want our money, of course they do. You guys are looking for solutions like the restructuring board. Their solution is you. Their solution, the Ramapo's board, is the solution is the Village of Suffern. Let's get their money, and then we'll fix our problems with Suffern's money. They're not going to help us, so thank you.
Hi, Susan Lorenz. I'm a longtime Village resident, and I certainly agree with everything that that gentleman said. I think that most people would agree that the problems of the town of Ramapo seem to infect everyone that they come across. But my question is to follow up with Mr. Markunas and the very kind comments he said to Chief Osborne. I understand and have heard that it wasn't a merger of the Suffern Police Department with the Ramapo Police Department, but there was talks or rumors that the midnight shift of the Police Department of Suffern would be taken over by Ramapo, and I'm just wondering whether that's still on the table or whether we're keeping our police department intact only, you know, for Suffern.
Okay. Well, as I stated to the chief and the department, there was a misinterpretation of the midnight tour, and it had nothing to do with the police department, the police officers of the tour. So that is totally a rumor.
All right, terrific, thank you.
Okay?
Mayor, board members, Joseph Hunt, 88 Washington Ave, 72 Bon Air Circle, and the end of Ridge Ave. Because I spend a lot of my time here in the village making it safe. And I'm here just to thank the chief for coming in the storm before last and assisting me when I was shorthanded in plowing my roads, and really got to see what we do throughout the night while everybody sleeps. And again, I just wanted to say thank you, Chief.
Good evening, Jeff Genser, 32 First Street, Suffern, New York. Couple of things. I was wondering if it would be possible for the village website to offer us some semi-regular updates on everything that's going on in the village. How's that sound? Let's put it that way. I applaud our chief for using social media so well.
Can you just hold on 1 second? Virginia just has to change the tape.
Oh.
Just 1 minute.
Burned it out.
What's your hurry?
Okay.
So, I think it would be nice if, to alleviate and eliminate rumors from, spreading around, if we got some update as to how things are going with our budget and things like that. As far as our budget goes, I'd like to just throw my 2 cents in, pun intended here.
Jeff, let me just address your first comment.
Yes.
I am presently working, Kathy and I are going to be working on a mayor's page where I will be updating you weekly on what has happened in the village, as well as what has happened at board meetings for people who can't get out to the board meetings. So we are actually in the process of putting the mayor's page together.
Fantastic.
So the village website's a little busy right now, so it's kind of hard to find things sometimes.
Yeah.
So if we just dedicate that page to happenings of the village, it'll be much easier for people to be able to navigate it.
I think that's great. Getting a little bit further on here, let's presume our taxes are going to go up, which I'm going to have to think they're going to. So what I'd like to propose is, let's say our taxes go up, I don't want to jinx anybody, let's say they go up, and we have something in the budget plan to cut spending the exact amount that our taxes are raised in every department across the board. Maybe even some departments could be eliminated completely. So I'm willing to pay my fair share to get us out of the $2.5 million hole we're in, and every resident who wants to keep the village the way it is has to be prepared to do that. We don't want to lose our police department. We don't need redundancy in village government. I'm not going to go into the details that I'm implying right now. And last thing I want to mention is we had a public hearing set for amending zoning law and zoning map to rezone properties along east side of Orange Avenue and north side of Chestnut Street. Finally, we have a public hearing without a potential developer here, and it gets canceled because he requests it to be canceled because he's not here. This is not the way it's supposed to be. We almost had it right. Let's have a meeting about the zone change without a developer. Let's decide as a village if we want to change that zone or not, and then bring on the developers. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Jeff.
Good evening, Phyllis Kazin, I live on Parkside. I can't tell you how disappointed and saddened I am by what's going on. You don't get reports. How can you make budgets? How can you spend money? What has the board and the people on, don't you talk to each other? Don't you know what's going on? I mean, we run families. That's how you get in trouble, when you spend more than you have. I haven't heard one explanation as to how this got out of hand. And it's some of the people that are sitting on the board now have been on the board previously. So it's the last 2 or 3, say 6 years back, that this started. And nobody said anything, and now they're blaming it on bookkeeping, on this and that. Where did the money go?
Phyllis, Mike has actually gone over several times. I don't know if you were at the last meeting, but he kind of gave a complete overview of when it started and what had happened. And, you know, part of the problem obviously was the sewer plant that needed a lot of work done to bring us up to date and in repair and in compliance. So, you know, we made a conscious decision to invest in our water and sewer, which, you know, has to be paid for.
But so how can you invest if you don't have, on one thing, and then you don't have the money on the other end to pay the normal kinds of budgets?
Okay, it's a little bit more complex than that. It's
obviously.
Right, but Mike gave us a whole dialogue on it, actually for quite some time. The problem being is that some of the, I'm trying to be kind, some of the accounting that was proposed in order to keep us even was not appropriate.
And some of the word that I heard, they were pushing ahead to take the proposed budget that was coming up, and eventually, in the end, it gets you. You can't run.
Exactly.
You can't run a house that way.
100% right.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
Hi, I'm Debbie Tapp. I'm over on Oakdale Manor. What I'd like to ask is, at the last board meeting, you agreed to hire another lawyer. And I'd like to understand what the purpose of the lawyer, Amy Mealy, I believe, is her name. Why is she hired? What is the exact reason for her? What is she going to be doing? Could you please explain to us? We've been arguing over it.
Okay, the resolution that was presented last month regarding the hiring of Amy Mealy, an attorney, was to be special counsel to the board. And we would utilize her services as needed. One in particular service that we were speculating to use her for was to sell the excess water that Suffern has. Her specialty is in utility sales. So that was the proposed resolution. That was our thought. That's how we wanted to raise excess revenue for the village. And that should answer your question.
Okay, the second part of that is, we have Terry Rice, village attorney, and he can't do this?
According to Terry Rice, he's overwhelmed with the workload as a part-time attorney that is hired here for 2 days a week and that needs to work here 5 days a week to handle the workload of the daily village business?
Debbie, I probably should mention, is that Terry has been working, well before the new trustees have come in. We have been working with United Water, and he has been negotiating with them all along. So I don't know where Mr. Markunas got that information from, but the negotiations of the possibility of selling water to United Water have been ongoing. And Mr. Rice has been in those meetings and working for the village.
So this billing that's being postponed till after the new budget year begins, are we going to get a detailed explanation of what we're being billed for? Since it's a duplication of services?
Well, let me answer that. No, it's not a duplication of service. I'm sorry. It's not a duplication of services. If you're familiar with village government, you'll find that we have a number of lawyers who handle various assignments. They don't duplicate their work, but each one is doing something different. There's labor lawyers, there's personnel lawyers. There's a number of different lawyers that are employed by the village. So no, it's not a duplication of services. The mayor says a long time before we came into power, well, that's not quite accurate. We had conversations with the water company, and it's one of the reasons that the water company contacted the village. It's not that the village contacted United Water. And I should point out, this was a simple remedy that's been available for years, and nobody sought to take advantage of it. We produce a tremendous amount of excess water. This should have been looked at years ago when they realized that they had a financial problem and revenues weren't coming in.
Excuse me, the mayor just said that Mr. Rice has been discussing it and has been working on it. So will this new lawyer be responding to his direction, seeing as that he needs the extra help?
No, the new lawyer will be handling the sale of our excess water with United Water. She has an expertise in this field, and that's why we employed her.
It's an awful lot of money that we don't have to begin with.
No, it's not an awful lot of money when you consider what the financial benefit could be.
But I thought we already had a lawyer handling this. And she will only be handling water sales? Or will she be handling other things, as you implied?
At this point, she's only been hired to handle a water sale.
At this point. Do we get to discuss any further things she does?
Anything that we do out of the ordinary to hire personnel is discussed at a board meeting.
It just seems a little strange that we have a lawyer on staff. Okay.
Okay.
Thank you.
Hold on a minute. This tape doesn't sound like it's
It's working.
Yeah, but it's clicking. It's working. It's making a noise.
Philip Furgang, 16 Stockbridge. I just have a few questions to ask you about this water sale. You can't hear? How's this? You say we have excess water to sell the Spring Valley Water Company. Is that the process?
United Water.
United Water.
United Water, sorry, that's correct. Same people. The question I have is this. Back in the 70s, we were approached in the same way. In fact, they made an offer to buy it. We did a study and we turned it down because of the costs involved and the loss to the village in general. Have you had an agronomist check the aquifer for the availability of the excess water that they want?
Yes, we have.
And what did the agronomist report?
Is Charles still here? Yeah. Charles, you want to talk on that?
Without going into a great detail, I mean, currently the permit that we have with the New York State DEC allows us to produce upwards of 4 million gallons per day. Our average demand is around 1.5 million gallons. So we have that surplus, and in terms of the geological I'm not prepared, I don't have the expertise to speak about that in great detail, but in rough numbers, we have a permit for $4 million. We utilize, on an average, about 1.5, and I think our peak is in around 2.5.
See, I'm not concerned so much with the permit, obviously. You can't violate that.
We can't hear you, Phil. Can you?
Oh, yeah, I'm sorry.
No, it's okay. My question is not along those lines, but the actual availability of that. The fact that we have that permit, and I'm aware of that permit, doesn't mean anything. These are estimates that are picked out of, literally picked out of the sky. If the water is available, you can do this. That's what the permit says. But the ultimate decision has got to be that there has to be an agronomist who comes in and says, yes, you have that available. Let me develop this a little bit. One of the concerns I have is that periodically we go into a period where we'll have a drought. Suffern has been very fortunate because of this aquifer set up as a source of our water. We don't get it, as you know, from a reservoir. So we have had very little difficulty in maintaining water supply to village residents, even to the extent of allowing them to continue using the waters for their lawns and things like that on a limited degree in the middle of that type of situation. So we have to be concerned that we actually not only have the water at present when we don't have a drought situation, but in the years when there was a drought, that there wouldn't be this fallover. I'm not saying there is going to be one. I'm not here to predict. I'm not an agronomist. But I do think what you need is an in-depth view by an agronomist, someone that has a reputation and the qualifications.
Phil, we can't hear you.
I'm sorry. Let me do it this way. You'll need somebody, an agronomist, to come in and do a detailed study of what exactly is available and to project what will be available using past records in connection with the drought. Because you don't want us to get into a situation where we have a contract where the United Water can call upon us to deliver a certain amount of water to the detriment of the village residents.
Okay, Phil, there's actually provision built in for that.
Okay.
Yes, absolutely. That was the first thing that I was very strong about, is that provision must be built in, and it is built into the agreement.
Have we had an agronomist report, a current report? It's been a few years since this has gone by, and so that we know the state, so we know what we're getting into.
Yeah. United Water is actually going to bring someone in at their expense to give us a report on it. So it's not going to cost the village anything.
I would suggest
But it's an outside entity.
I would respectfully suggest that the United Water Company is going to do a report, which is in its interest, that serves, that stands to reason. We have to have someone, the village, I would hope, is going to have provision that they'll pay for the agronomist. The village will hire.
That's what I'm saying.
Oh,
No, they're paying for it, but we will have say-so in who that, it will be an outside entity.
Okay, and also I think the other thing you'll want to take in consideration is future village development. If we're able to attract industry coming, if in the term of that contract, will we be able to? If there's going to be additional housing in the village or apartment house construction.
There's a cancellation clause in it as well.
Oh, that's very good. Okay, thank you.
You're welcome.
Let me just add to that. We have gone through our historical data, and our chief operator, we've had great discussion, in-depth discussions on drought periods going through the last number of decades.
Okay.
And again, we have a pretty good confidence level right now that we'll be able to generate that amount of water on a regular basis, so there hasn't been any...
One other question, I think this may be in your area.
Phil.
This may be in your area as well, I apologize. We have pumping stations that provide this water. We're going to be selling this to United Water, is that correct?
Well, water, just water. We
wouldn't be selling
or leasing our well.
No, I didn't think we were, but how are they going to get the water? Are we just going to supply them with water through mains? Or are they going to, they'll tap into our mains?
Yeah, I mean, we're just, we currently have an interconnect that we, in past, where we had difficulty during Irene, we had to purchase water from United Water.
Right.
So we have an interconnect through the infrastructure.
Well, that I understand, but and I would think it works both ways.
All right.
I'm talking about how they're going to get water from our system. We're going to deliver the water they're asking for. Do we have any projections on and any cutoff in the contract? Should their demand exceed the ability of our equipment to deliver, not the ability of the water? We covered that part already.
Yes, it has a top limit on it.
And are we?
So it's only per million gallons per a time period, and that's it.
I've about exhausted the subject, by the way, but I do have one other question. We have this equipment. It's going to be subject to the extra burden of pumping that water to the water company. That's going to increase wear and tear on the equipment.
We built that in as well.
And that's built in as well. And do we understand?
Correct.
Do we have an understanding of what that will do in the cycle of that equipment for replacement and repair?
Yes.
And the costs involved, and that's all been calculated?
Yes.
Okay, thank you very much.
Thank you, Phil.
There comes
Michael Curley, 84 Orange Avenue, Suffern, New York. I want to start on the lighter side. I just want to make sure, since the chief's overtime wasn't approved, he doesn't get overtime, right? For the snow plowing? Okay, I just want to make sure.
But he makes some really nice figure eights in the snow. It's nice.
I guess back to the attorney, there was like a surprise and a shock thrown on all of us at the last meeting, okay? Did this whole board get a chance to interview her up to this date since that last meeting? I mean, did anyone not interview her?
There you go.
Okay, so they haven't brought her in front of the people, all right? And I'd say you've had a chance to watch Terry Rice for many, many years, okay? I'll also point out, is she a full-time attorney for Clarkstown or part-time? Does anyone know that?
Full-time
She's a full-time attorney for Clarkstown, but yet she's going to come over here and straighten us out part-time, okay? That's good to hear, okay? Isn't it true that you actually met her in November? Isn't it true you met her and you interviewed her before you were even in office? Yes or no? Well, I'll tell you this. How's that sound? I got a lot of friends all over the county, all right? You met with her in November, but yet you're throwing on the general public and the people at the last minute with this trustees thing, okay? You had this all set in place, all right? That's not forthcoming. It's not righteous. It's not fair, okay? That's a long time you had. Right? That's a long time you had, okay, to come forth with that, okay? November, before you were sitting in them seats. So I wonder myself, so you read Terry Rice's mind and said Terry Rice can't do the job because he's too busy before you took office. Pretty good, Mr. Markunas, pretty good, okay? All right, another thing. But now you're saying, let's hire this attorney, okay, but we'll pay her in 2015. So you're already making a decision to put us in the hole for 2015, all right, with the next budget, and with 2014's work. It doesn't make sense to me, okay? All right? It's obviously another question. Maybe you won't answer it.
Well, do you want an answer to that?
Of course, thank you, sir.
Well, you might ask, the treasurer was able to work out a deal with the actuary based on our financial situation that they also are billing us in 2015-16 budget the same way she is.
Okay, right.
So, does that make it better now?
No, not at all, sir, okay? Because you actually met her and had this plan beforehand.
That wasn't your question, was it, Mike?
No,
I answered your question.
No, you didn't answer the question. You feel you did, sir.
No, I know I did.
Well,
you can't comprehend.
Listen, when you're in Florida all winter long, you mull that over, okay?
Okay.
Now, all right? Back to my point here, okay? Now, so you're going to go ahead with the 2015, okay? She has her full-time job. Did anyone refer to you? Anyone in the political circles refer her to you? Did anyone know her beforehand? You know that the Ramapo Republican Party attempted to meet with our mayor at an outside location and she refused to do it, okay? To run things for you guys? His name was Mike Dolan. Are you aware of that?
You know, you hang out with him all the time, okay? Well, that's a little sad that he asked to meet her outside in Jersey in a diner, right? But you know what? I give her credit and I give her credibility. She says, I meet in my Village Hall if anybody wants to meet with me, okay? So we don't have time for that here, okay? Now, I'd like to talk about, you mentioned the VFW sale, gentlemen, okay? You said that you don't want to buy it now, all right? The VFW is a sale that the village pretty much had said to everyone, we can get out of it now, that we want to buy it. We want to buy it for, one, when you get flooding over there in the West Ward, okay, and they are part of that village, and they're just as important as any community, whether it's Bonnie or downtown or anywhere else, all right? They got trapped in there sometimes, and we still haven't solved that problem, okay? So if the worst thing is, if we buy that for $150,000 was the deal, and we were saying to those veterans that were there fighting for me before I was even born, and I'm also a veteran, okay? Right? They were fighting for me before I was born, and this village made a commitment to buy it for $150,000, okay? Now, we also will get parking fees, okay? And I think that number, would you know that number? You ran the parking authority for years. Would it be $1,000 a month? Is that a fair number? I understand your question. Okay, my point is, sir, the questions will come later, all right? My point is that if we decided to finance that property for $150,000 and kept the commitment to those veterans, okay, it would cost us $791.76 for 25 years or 4%. Now, I went to the higher end because our credit's a little bad. We make that probably in the parking alone, okay? We then could say, since we made that obligation, two, we're offering safety to that community there as well, so they decide to do family fun bingo night or something, all right? And we get the recreation, Ms. Mills here just said that those employees here are willing to shift their hours so we don't pay overtime, okay? I think that's a sad day that we sell out our veterans after we promise them something, okay? Now I know, Mr. Hagen, Mr. We're all in the American Legion together, okay? And also your vice commander up there, okay? I don't think it's fair we treat one veteran different than the other veteran, okay? We made a commitment, okay? These numbers are workable for us. This is not going to put this village in a hole, okay? Those veterans, you know, and I don't like to talk, I don't want it to sound like it's negative, but they're older now, okay? And they don't have the same recruitment, the same things there, okay? So they're asking for our help, okay? And I'm telling you it won't cost us anything, okay? And I'm telling you we can go to the people and say, listen, if we need a little repair work, can you volunteer, can you help, okay? But we promised those veterans, all right? And under my watch, I will fight you, I will protest every day if you don't buy this building, okay? And we talk about the village with the cards, and I understand you're trying to save the village money. So you said, okay, maybe we'll take away some cards from some people, okay? I think taking it so abruptly away may be the wrong thing to do. I think what you do is let them go tomorrow. Terry, he's one of the most qualified attorneys, municipal attorneys in the state of New York. Let him do some releases or something that people are willing to sign. Let them have their car, and then do your policy. Don't just abruptly rip it out of them. It's not fair to them. It's not good work relationships, okay? It's gonna cost the people more in the long run. You know, what penny wise, dollar dumb, whatever you want to call it. I'm not saying don't try to save money, all right? I'm not saying don't. But you said it was because, we could get lawsuits. Have them sign the waivers tomorrow then, okay? When they come in tomorrow, let them come in, let's sign the waivers, and let them take their cars, and then let's work on a policy if you feel that you know, we need to save money, okay? They're only here to help. They're not here to hurt us, okay? And whatever. Really, about the VFW, I'm extremely upset about it. Huh? I think it's we're veterans, okay? And what is the American Legion veteran better than a VFW veteran? I say not. No veteran is better or worse than the other. Thank you.
My name is Patsy Wooters. I live at 19 Mansfield Place over here. A happy resident of Suffern. I'd like to say something about water. I was part of TVPA, and I was asked to get involved in the fight against desalination. As you know, we're not looking at desalination, but the rest of the county was. And I worked with the Rockland Water Coalition. And I also was involved in the fight against the casino in Sterling Forest. And I learned something, number one, about United Water, and number two, about the state and how it says how much water there is. United Water, there are people that work for United Water that I really like. I really like Michael Pointing, actually, because I love his accent, and he's gone now. But United Water is a subsidiary of Suez. It's based in Paris, and it works on the ethic of an international corporation. It's about the bottom line and the bottom line only. And you look at what our neighbors outside of Suffern pay for their water. 4 times what we pay? Something like that. Okay? These people are sharks. I'm not saying we shouldn't make a deal with them, but we need to watch them. If they give us the money to hire a hydrogeologist, we need to hire the one we want and make clear to that hydrogeologist that he works for us and not United Water Suez. And in terms of capacity, the fact that the state says that we can draw water does not necessarily mean that there is water there to draw. Now, I would guess that Suffern wells are in good shape because they're underneath the river, and even in extreme drought, there's plenty of water underneath the river, the Ramapo River. So probably there is the capacity there, but I think we need to be really sure about that. But the one issue that came up in my mind the last time this came around, Suffern is allowed to draw water without restriction, and it doesn't depend on the level of water flowing in the Ramapo River. So we are bound by drought restrictions because they are set by the Department of Health in Rockland County. So if the rest of the county is hurting, we also have to stop watering our lawns. So what? But we need to be, I lost my I'm sorry, I forgot what I was saying. But anyway, I think it's very important that we're very sharp with United Water. They look out for themselves only. Okay?
Thank you, Pat.
Oh, gosh. I knew he was going to do it.
Jim Janatino, 2 Memorial Drive. I have a question about something which was perfectly accurate, I'm assuming, Mike. You know I have the most respect for you. You've even worked for me at one point when I was mayor. Was what you read, Mike, given to the mayor and village board and trustees about the supposed infractions in a management letter to the then board and mayor?
As you know, I wasn't here at the time, Mayor. I will tell you that when I looked for the comment letters, I could not locate one. I was told that nobody had received one in the village. I contacted the auditing firm, and they're the ones that sent me these letters.
Well, it's policy for them, when they leave, to issue these letters to the mayor at the very least, and the board should have asked for copies. Isn't that the policy? When they audit, which?
Actually, with most auditing firms, yes. But I would also tell you that the auditing firm told me that for the 2010 letter, they actually delivered a verbal report to whom they didn't say, but that's unusual too. So.
That's quite unusual. The point I'm trying to make is, whoever was on that board, and most of the people up there weren't, should have known or demanded to know what shape the village was in 2010, 2011, 2012, 13 wasn't done, 14 wasn't done. So I don't understand how anybody sitting on a board hears that we're in this financial situation and continues business as usual, spending money, borrowing money. And if I'm not mistaken, Mike, our deficit is in an operating budget, correct?
Our deficit is in two areas. One is in the operating budget, and yes, we're also in the fund balance.
And the capital budget.
And the capital budget as well, yes.
Okay. The easiest one for anybody to notice would be the three fund balances. You deal with the general fund almost daily when you pay your bills. You get a bank statement. Who was watching the store when all this money disappeared? I mean, that's the obvious question. This deficit didn't happen in 2013 or 2014. It happened in 10, 11, 12, 13, and 14. And as one lady said, how come we didn't know about this till now? Well, I have my own thinking on why we didn't know, but I'm just going to keep it to myself. Another thing, the actuary, who is responsible to hire the actuary that should have been hired for these previous budgets? I would assume the village board, because my understanding is the village board appropriates all funds, and all the bills are signed, whose signature is on all the checks for all the payments? The mayor of the Village of Suffern. None of these other people can sign a check. One person. You answered this at the workshop, Mike. The money that we needed to borrow, it was an emergency on February the 3rd, we still haven't gotten. So what was the emergency? You knew you couldn't get your money for at least a month or 6 weeks later, correct? Pretty much. Okay, so it's basically a month?
Mayor, as I explained in the previous meetings and workshops, the purpose of making sure that we had the adopted resolution to go forward and get this money was that it would take some lead time. If we had waited until this meeting, for instance, to get this done, we're looking at 4 weeks from now to get the money, and that probably would have been far too late for many things.
Right, and I understand the only reason the village made payroll is because they received money on the facade program that was owed for the last 2 years. Is that correct?
Yes.
Okay, otherwise we would have had the same crisis on the last payday. I don't believe there was ever a crisis, and I'll tell you why I don't believe it. And this is from the minutes of the emergency meeting. As Mr. Janito said, he recommended the $600, $600, and $345,000 bans and rants. Mr. Byrne said, and I quote, "No matter what we do today, February 3rd, it is fair to say no money is going to be coming into the village coffers from these loans by Friday, which was payday." Mr. Janito said that is probably a true statement. Am I quoting you correctly? Thank you. Mr. Janito stated that since 2010, 2 of the funds have been having rolling deficits. Meantime, the general fund started to run into deficits. Reasons being there were a bunch of revenue that didn't come in, and expenditures were higher than anticipated, which means those village boards overstated their revenues and understated their expenses. And I'm going to just put in a personal note. I've stood here for 6 or 7 years and went over budgets with every single board and explained to them how they'd never make their revenue. And they all looked at me like I had 4 heads, but at the end of the year, they never made revenue. And in fact, last March, I sat down personally with this mayor in private and went over some things. Evidently, they weren't good enough because they were never adopted, but that's my opinion. Okay, you actually stated what I asked that these deficits are mainly in the operating budget, which caused the deficits in those fund balances, correct? So this isn't a surprise, people. They all knew what was going on all these years, but they wanted to stay under the cap. So what's the cap going to be this year? 7%? 8%? How much is our water and sewer going to go up this year? 4%, 5% each? Is it fair that this has to be made up on the backs of everybody in here that pays taxes because of complete neglect on some of these boards? And I hope, I don't know if you have your plan yet, Mike, but I look forward to seeing it, but I'm hoping that not only increased taxes, increased water rates, increased sewer rates, there needs to be cuts. It may be a little painful, but there needs to be cuts. You cannot penalize all these people for mistakes that were made up on this stage. One other thing, maybe more than one, and this is no knock on you, Mike. I have a lot of respect, you know that. I don't see any reason why we can't have the state come in and audit the last 3 financial years in addition to whatever audits that were done. Maybe they'll find something that can help us out of this mess or make a suggestion. Mike has suggestions. There's never too many suggestions. Ask for help. And it's not a financial control board, which, in fact, if you went that route, the only way they could force you into consolidation is if you take any money in grants. Read the law. One other thing, I am requesting this board, and with Mike's agreement, to invite O'Connor Davies to a public meeting and explain where we are, how long it's going to take us to get out of here, and what they recommend to get us out of this mess. Thank you.
Again, Joseph Hunt, 88 Washington Ave, and multiple address. Jim, I started here in late '05. You were coming out of your term. You were financial stress because we had the union and payout and overtime. So let me just give you a quick scenario of my time here in the village. 2 years later, I did a safety OSHA inspection at the sewer plant. We found it in dismay. You know, very downgraded. Board members from the past and mayors overlooking our facilities. And then we have to dump a lot of money in. In the interim of starting that project, we had a major flood. Then we had a second flood that took out Squires Gate. So all these things stressed out the village because obviously FEMA doesn't pay 100%. We didn't have insurance on some of our facilities because somebody decided not to have insurance down a ball field. So we lost millions of dollars of motors. And to have somebody like yourself and other people come up here and say, it's these board people, these new ones, are trying to figure out, and hopefully you'll work together as a team, not as independents. I'm a Republican and I'm disgusted at what I've seen here. I'm an employee too, and I was born and raised here. And what's happening in my auditorium, because I closed this school in 1975, has really put me way out in left field. I can't believe what's been going on here fighting in between each other. You know, you got a Democrat on the board. We're not here to resolve Ebola. We're here to resolve small Suffern, historical Suffern issues and work together as a team. But that scenario I just gave you, there's a lot more. We've had a hurricane come through from Rockland Terrace to Woodland Ave. It cost the village a lot of money to shut down roads, police department overtime, things that we can't get back right away. And then when we do start doing some FEMA work, we get questioned. Why is the DPW doing that? Because my labor rate compared to the fair labor rate for a contractor is about $23 difference. So anything that the village could do to save money and then look at the big picture, because it costs dearly once we sign a CSAA contract for back pay. But no, nobody wants to talk about these little things. Just think about it. It's all what we did to help Suffern out, to keep Suffern safe that cost us. And a couple people making mistakes. Learn from it. Let's work together and move forward. Make it happen.
Yeah. Richard Gannon, 45 Somerset, Suffern, New York. I came up to talk about one thing, but a number of other questions have come up. Mayor Abato, were you involved in negotiating with United Water?
Yes.
Okay, so you've negotiated contracts before?
Yes.
And it sounds, based on the questions that have been asked, that a lot of this contract has been negotiated already?
We are close to bringing a proposal to the board, yes.
Okay. And, Mr. Morris, you talked about bringing this attorney in because of her expertise. What's the return on investment on paying her up to $48,000 to negotiate this?
Where did 48,000, where'd you
Well,
get
it's
that?
$200 an hour, $4,000 a month.
Excuse me?
It's $200 an hour up to $4,000 a month, 4,000 times 12.
I think the original resolution called, I think the original resolution called for $4,000, period, didn't it?
No.
Period? No, it's $4,000 a month.
Well, we had talked about that, and
$200 an
that
hour.
was an error.
Okay, is there a cap on that amount?
The cap was originally supposed to be $4,000.
It is 4,000?
That's not, no, that was not in the resolution.
Okay.
Well, again, an error in the resolution, but the cap was supposed to be at $4,000.
Okay, so we can expect no more than $4,000 would be spent on this attorney to negotiate it?
That's right.
Okay, and is this an ongoing commitment, or she negotiates this one deal and we're done?
She was brought in to negotiate the one deal.
Okay. Okay,
That's
so-
not what you said. You said that she'll be used as special counsel when needed.
We called her special counsel. Right now, she's being brought in to negotiate with United Water.
Okay, so $4,000, okay.
And that's the only resolution that's on the table.
Okay, then that resolution has to be changed, Bob, because that's not what the
You're
resolution
right.
says.
We talked about that, and I forgot to bring it up.
So I
at the
think
end
you
of
need to
workshop.
withdraw the resolution.
Okay, well...
What is the issue with the resolution? I'm sorry. I have it in front of me. I'm just trying to clarify it.
It's not to exceed $4,000 a month is the resolution.
Yes.
How many months is it for?
$4,000 in total.
$4,000 per month for 20 hours.
Okay, how many months is that outlined in the resolution? Okay, so it's open-ended?
Yes,
So it conceivably costs the village $48,000?
correct.
Okay. What's the return on investment over hiring somebody at that rate versus using village employees, village attorneys that are already on the payroll?
Well, again, the $48,000 number is in error. I can't say it any other way. It's in error.
I understand that. I'm just wondering, is there a benefit to investing up to $48,000 versus
Keep bringing
using...
up the $48,000. I told you that's an error. I
Okay.
mean, I'm not understanding why you're having a problem understanding that.
resolution.
And?
It's $4,000.
Again, we just said there's a mistake. Or do you have a problem understanding
So then
that?
take back the resolution.
We are gonna address it.
Do it now.
It's the audience participation.
Make a proposal to withdraw the resolution.
Okay. Go ahead, Mr. Gannon.
Okay, so, all right, so...
Why are you not doing
Okay,
it?
Mr. Lyons.
Go ahead, Mr. Gannon.
4,000, we'll agree it's 4,000 a month open-ended, that's fine. Okay, the reason I'm here is clearly the one thing we all agree on is this village is in dire fiscal shape. Is that correct?
Yes.
Almost a year ago, I had a conversation with Terry Rice, which led to a series of meetings with Mr. Rice and Mayor Abato about looking for solutions. And one of the things we discussed, obviously, forming a new town, and as somebody alluded to before, we pay $1.5 million a year to the town of Ramapo. And I'm not pointing fingers at the town of Ramapo. The problem is the only thing I can find, the only return on that investment of $1.5 million is the use of their tax assessor. Now, I think we get reduced rates at the golf course, right? $1.5 million, that's a lot of subsidizing the golf course.
That we already have.
But other than that, I mean, again, I'm not trying to point fingers at anybody, but, taxes are an investment. And this is a village that is constantly invested in the people that work here. And again, not pointing fingers at the town of Ramapo, I think they cover about 100 square miles with approximately 120 to 130 police officers. We cover 2.5 with, 30? Okay? It's simple numbers, it's simple math. You don't get the service. We invest in these people, and I'll tell you right now, call 911 in this village, and you're going to have, within 2 minutes, 3 or 4 of these guys on your line.
Hold on, changing the tape.
Flip the tape.
It's because Curly talked too long.
1 minute. Okay.
Okay.
All right, can I continue? All right. I mean, the bottom line is you're going to have people on your lawn within 2 minutes. You're going to have the firefighters, the volunteers on your lawn shortly thereafter. If you have a problem, you're going to have the DPW guys out there. I mean, when I moved here, we called the water department. A guy was at my house in 10 minutes. I mean, this is a service that we invest in. And again, without pointing any fingers at anybody, we need to look at changing our form of government. If we become a city, we don't have to raise taxes a dime. We keep an extra $1.5 million in the treasury of the village or the city of Suffern. We've done a lot of research to look into this. And by the way, this is not my plan. This plan, here's a draft of a proposal. I believe Mr. Rice's father brought it up way back when. Mayor Scar brought it up in 1996. So we dusted this thing off. This is something we need to look at. And I'll tell you, we looked at all the services. The police department, if we become a city, no change. The agreements with the Rockland County Sheriff's Department, the County REACT team, the Drug Task Force, and intelligence units would remain the same. Fire department and safety, no change. Village attorney would become a city attorney, no change. Justice court, no change. Sewer department, no change. Building department, no change. Finance department, no change. Recreation, there could be changes in that if the town no longer wanted to accept our children in their summer camps, we just have to start our own, which would actually create jobs for college students and high school students. It's not a big deal, and you know what, we can invite other students to come, or other children to come to our camps. So that's one of the things that we might possibly have to look at, and the town's camps are self-funding, so it's really not a cost to us. As we mentioned, greens fees, I'm sorry, Mr. Lyons, you might have to pay a little bit more. We may not get the subsidized green fees. You may be eligible for a senior citizen discount soon, so can I tell you?
I'll take you miniature golfing.
The village clerk would become a city clerk, which means Virginia would have a job for another 50 years. Okay. The tax assessor, for years we had a tax assessor. We do outsource that to the town of Ramapo. We would have to get our own tax assessor. You know, we pay in excess of $1.5 million. I'm looking at a net savings of $1.4 if we were to do this. The schools, one of the reasons why this was not adopted by Mr. Rice's father and Mrs. Scar's father is because of the school laws. Those laws have since been changed. Our children would still go to the Ramapo Central School District, so we don't have any issues there. We would probably have to hire a part-time dog catcher. Okay, and seeing as how retired Lieutenant Bonkowski hasn't got his buyout yet, I say we give him the job. Like that one? Okay. Rockland County would still provide all of the same services. None of that would change. Now, when people hear city, they usually think of urban sprawl. That's not going to happen. In fact, if we were to become a city with approximately 12,000 residents, there would be 12 cities in the state of New York smaller than us, based on population. The smallest being Sherrill, New York, with under 3,200 people. So, you know, it's not urban sprawl or any of these other things. Some of the benefits, if this money were to be put toward paying down the existing debt, we would be debt-free in less than 5.37 years, and that doesn't include the current repayment schedule. I mean, that's something I think you really got to look at. If Novartis leaves and no tenant is found, we're facing a potential hole of up to $800,000. Okay? Listen, if we're bringing in netting an extra 1.4, guess what? We're still 600,000 to the plus. I mean, that's not insignificant. When all the debt has been eliminated, we can invest in our infrastructure. I mean, this is money that stays here. How long do you think we could go without raising taxes beyond the cap if we had this extra revenue? I mean, think about that. Now, this may not be the final option for this village. It's something we need to look into. We need bipartisanship. Okay, this is not a Republican thing, it's not a Democrat thing, this is about putting the people before the parties. And that's really what everybody here wants to see. Now, and finally, like I said, we can become the 63rd city in the state of New York, bring an additional $1.5 million a year without raising taxes into our coffers. I think this is something that we need to look into. Thank you for your time and consideration.
Adam DiStefano, 19 Prairie Avenue, Suffern. I'm just here because I do remember years ago, and Mike Curley, you'd remember this, back when we originally tried to sell to United Water. It was pretty much the same deal as what's going on now, and I know that the public was very afraid of it just because, as a gentleman brought up, there was less information available. Even though we had some studies done, it wasn't in-depth. My only recommendation, the board has even shown that they're more than willing to do this, is definitely make sure that we have the study done properly, make sure we know that we will have the water for our residents. And you know what? As Mike Curley said, what is it, Mike? Over $500,000 now if we sold it back then we would have? Think about that. If in 2.3, wow, I must have missed a zero somewhere in that. So think about it. Think about how much money that can bring into the village. And you know what? I want to commend this board for taking that step to give us something that we have, a resource that we have, and to sell it and yet still keep it for ourselves. That's something that we should be looking for. We have great staff, we have great facilities. We are, I believe, the only self-sufficient village in New York State, and hopefully in the future, as Mr. Gannon brought up, we might be able to become a self-sufficient city. Thank you very much.
Thanks, Adam.
Hey, Paul Gerard, 2 Cross Street. Mr. Gannon obviously brought up a great point. To me, it's a no-brainer. I mean, we don't lose any services. We cut a huge bill off. I mean, everybody here looks at their Town of Ramapo tax bill. The biggest expense on there is medical benefits to God knows who. They're not anybody that work or live in Suffern. So I would like to hear the board's thoughts on why they think this is a bad idea, or what are their concerns about incorporating as a city, because when you can cut a huge amount off of our tax bill and not cut anybody's services and not have to raise anybody's taxes to eliminate this deficit, you guys have an easy job here. So, I mean, with that solution. So, does anybody have any thoughts or any concerns they want to share why this is not a good idea?
I have none that why it's not a good idea. It's an excellent idea, and what takes a little bit of time, and Rich has been actually volunteering his time with Terry and I to do the research, is that you have to be completely prepared that you've covered every service that this village may or may not need in your charter to become a city. The biggest problem is making sure that the big things are covered, like you name Ramapo Central School District as your continuing school district. You name Department of Social Services in Rockland County, you'll continue on with them, because if you miss just one thing, the Village of Suffern will be responsible for that. So it does take a lot of time, it takes a lot of investigating, so we've been working through each and everything. The wonderful part was that Terry's dad kind of set the groundwork for us, because we were able to use his charter as a starting point, so that's really helped us out quite a bit. So we're going to continue to keep on keeping on, and hopefully within the next few months be ready to present it to the board, and it's more importantly to the residents.
Okay, well, it sounds like a better solution than consolidating, or, consolidation is a drop in service and just a slow creep up with our taxes, and nobody wants that here. So, we're looking forward to hearing you guys come back and telling us that we're going to do this.
Thank you.
Hi, I just want to make 1 second. Rich, what is the website for the city?
cityofsuffern.com.
Okay, it's cityofsuffern.com. He's got it up and running already.
Can Charles go first since you've already been up? He's been waiting. Can you let, Jim, can you let somebody else go first, and then I'll let you...
All I want to know is, do we have to get permission from the town and the legislature to become a city?
Not a city.
Terry?
No, the process is, it's like any other legislative bill. It has to be approved by the Senate and the Assembly and signed by the governor, and that's not an easy process, but we don't need any other local jurisdiction to agree.
Charles, I'm very sorry, please.
Charles Sabine from things. First, we pursue our typical and rush who will be there in the circuit. Jeff Oppenheim, we can move.
Actually, getting that done, Mr. Original, that order of one election of interested in whomever that should be. We definitely, AOM is definitely interested, other, who are interested, so I continued on with that, but not to send anything, so we absolutely have commitments from them, that they pass us first, of interest.
Second thing, people already have to get $0.5 million in debt, and back in January of 2007, the village bonded $275,000 to bond 20 Orange Avenue. $325,000 was for the dollars was to demolish the building. Obviously, it's still standing. The planning authority was supposed to enter into a lease agreement, this is their words, with the village, whereby they would pay the monthly principal and interest on the bond. Now, I have a letter here, January 2008, 10 months later, from Commerce Bank. They're sending it on behalf of their bondholder, and on March 21st, 2008, which is 1 year from the date of the bond, they're asking for $375,000 in principal and $14,000 in interest. Now, on the surface, it seems to me that if a monthly payment was being made, your principal balance may be in the high 360s, and the interest would be zero. So the first question I have would be, was the parking authority making those payments, and if they were, to the village, were they getting to the bond? Now, $388,000, I mean, we don't owe that money anymore. And a former mayor, who I served with, I won't mention his name, told me off the cuff one day, well, the parking authority still owes us $208,000, which I'm skeptical because that means they kicked in $180,000 over a several year period, and having tried to dismantle them before I left office, I know for a fact they didn't have that kind of dough, so I'm skeptical about that. And the point I want to make is that about 10% of our debt is tied up in 120 Orange Avenue. Now, we have a contract there with the Goldsteins, or did, for $292,000, and I guess we should be happy that they're paying that kind of dough, which brings me to my next question. How did we get to that figure? Is there an appraisal on that property?
There was.
Where is it?
I'm sure we can get it for you.
Yeah.
Did you get your paperwork?
I requested 10 things in my foil.
I thought the appraisal was...
I got 9, but they were totally unrelated to what I asked for.
What was that?
I asked for the copy of the contract from 2007. I got the contract for 2014 to the Goldsteins. I want the one from the village to the Scotts, and I want that appraisal also. But forget all that.
I think that's what you asked for.
We have $250,000, 10% of the debt, tied up in that, little pink hut down there. And my concern is if a developer... What's that?
Do you want to buy it?
Yeah, I would. I'll give you $25,000 tomorrow.
Yeah.
Well, I would, but, if it's under a brownfield,
That's about what it's going to be worth.
The only way we're going to get out of it is redevelopment. So in an odd way, we should be thanking the Goldsteins, which I hate saying, because there are other alternatives. So when people ask, where will this debt come from? Well, there's 10% of it right there from that transaction. I just want to point that out, and if you do sell that property and get the $300,000 or the $290,000, I would hope you would make a principal reduction to whatever bond you have, as opposed to previous boards or every political government, they put it in the general fund to keep taxes down. It shouldn't go there. A windfall like that should immediately go to paying the debt down. And I want to ask Terry one question. Is there anything that binds us, a village government, for buying or selling a property for the fair market value? Do we have to sell it for the fair market value? And if so, who determines the fair market value? Are there guidelines or best practices for that?
Right, well, yes, you have to get a reasonable return, so you can't sell it for less than the market value, and you hire a qualified appraiser who utilizes the applicable appraisal standards. We usually hire an MIA who uses the highest standards, and they come up with an estimate.
Well, let me ask you this question. I was at a special meeting in March 2013. It was me, Dagan LaCourt, and Joe Corrigan, and we were selling a property to Don Brennan for $26,000 over there on, I think, Pleasant Avenue. And I said, let's ask the guy for 31. And Dagan LaCourt said, oh, no, that's in violation of the law. Is that true?
I don't know what you're referring to, but there was an appraisal for that piece of private property that was sold, yes.
I think he's asking, do you have to sell it for the appraisal amount, or can you sell it for whatever you want?
The only principle of law is that you can't sell it for less than the fair market value.
So if we say to the Goldsteins we want $500,000 for Orange Avenue, we can do that if they agree?
You can ask anyone, anytime, anything once, anyway.
Okay. So the former mayor was incorrect.
Thank you. Let's go on. Okay, so let us go on.
Jean Hennelly, 135 Lane Avenue. The $1.5 million that we paid to Rampo, is that set in stone, or can we negotiate that, we put the back up against the wall and say, listen, we're looking to become a city, but if you reduce it to 250, we can, where's the number come from?
Taxes are taxes.
They're all statutory. The only thing that we don't pay are the only two things that the town can allow the village not to pay, and that's their highway and their police. Everything else the village by statute has to pay, or the village residents.
Okay, so then, as far as the Medicaid and the ambulance, we wouldn't be getting those in our personal taxes either, or how does that work? Would we be paying Suffern, or going back to Rockland County, or?
You still
on the Rampo bill, there's the subcategories on personal taxes, property taxes.
You would still pay your state, county, and town tax. The only, I'm sorry, you still say state, county tax and school tax.
And we'd come here to pay for that, or will we have to go to the county? Usually we can go to
pay the county tax, yeah.
But right now we can go to Rampo.
Yeah, I'm sure you would pay it there.
So like we make the check out to Nate Oberman or whatever his name is.
I honestly don't know. The tax would still be due though.
Right, that's what town taxes.
The county tax.
Oh, you can pay it there and they pay it to the county, correct?
All right, thank you. And I'm sorry to hear the hockey team lost tonight, sorry.
Oh.
Well, that's a tough act to follow, isn't it? Good evening, Mayor. Good evening, Board. I come here to ask a couple of questions. Actually, the first one is going to be to Mr. Giamatino. You had the minutes from the emergency meeting. I know you're not on the board, but I have a question. You casted some fairly serious aspersions about the people in the office that you could not get the minutes as fast as other people could. Did you get them from the office? You owe somebody an apology. Whoever you were talking about that you couldn't get the minutes from.
Okay, Bruce.
All right.
Bruce, you need to talk to the board, not to the public, please.
Next case.
Okay, Mr. Giannatino, I just asked him to do the same, okay? Thank you. Go ahead, Mr. Simon.
Mr. Markunas, at a previous meeting, you said the word consolidation. I'm ecstatic to hear you say that the police are not part of that. Never were, never will be. Can you say the same thing about the DPW?
Yes, if I did use the word consolidation as you're saying, my plan or my presentation included to do a comprehensive review of the village finances. That was my undertaking, that was my purpose, that was my different avenue, just to explore another opportunity for the Village of Suffern to figure out their finances, along with Mr. Janito's perfect plan that he has in place now, that he's been diligently working on and sharing with the board. My take was to have a review of our finances done by the state, because we do not have any audits in place, and my limited knowledge in financial ability, as Mr. Janito has, I thought that would be a good idea to have the finances reviewed and audited by the state.
Fair enough. I just wanted to confirm that this had nothing to do with personnel or departments or anything like that.
The consolidation, I don't know how, spread like wildfire, that St. Lawrence was marching down 59 and grabbing everybody and taking them under his wing. I'm sorry to be sarcastic, but that's not what the plan was. The plan was to help Suffern's financial condition, to have a comprehensive review of the finances of the village.
Fair enough. How does that figure into us potentially hooking into Linton Hilburn?
That with
I can tell you that yes, for part of that is to avoid people who are, live here. And I'll put myself on that list as well because I sat on the board. But we, the board that was sworn in, that sat here from
we have been in extensive conversations with Mr. Zawicki and the personnel at the sewer department, and they have indicated to us that it has been in to correct.
Questions I guess I'd ask Judge Byrne. What is the out clause on the VFW contract?
Judge Byrne?
Judge Byrne. You mean the judge who's not sitting here?
No.
Okay. We'll move on to the next one. Mr. Hagen. Mr. Hagen. How are you? After the last meeting, out in the lobby, you told myself and several other people that Ms. Miller's salary would be paid for without it costing this village a cent. Would you care to elaborate on that?
That's what I was led to believe. It would be paid by, if she made a deal with United Water, they would pay her salary for that contract. That's what I was led to believe.
Is that still true?
If I may...
No, I'm only asking you, Frank, and Frank, you're a friend of mine, and I'm not here to put you on the spot. You did say that, and I want everybody to hear the answer to the question. Because it seemed odd to me and the other people that were standing there that something could cost potentially $48,000, and Bob, we can talk about that in a second. We could be on the hook for $48,000, but it not actually come out of the village budget. And if you want to say something about that, I'd appreciate it.
Yes, if I'd elaborate on that. There was discussion in regards to Amy Mealy and her fees being incorporated into a contract of sale of excess water to offset the fee to the Village of Suffern. In the interim, I was told that is not possible by Terry Rice. He says that is not a practice that is acceptable. Terry, am I correct on?
Mr. Markunas, can I ask a question? Since I'm the one that's been in the talks with United Water, when did you think that you were going to give the mayor the courtesy of that information?
Well, when I was in speaking with Terry, I was actually in looking for you when you were not available.
Oh, so there's no email, there's no telephones?
Well, I did send emails, but not in regards to, to this
Okay. I just was
topic that went
wondering.
unanswered.
I'm sorry.
Okay, Mr. Morris, one question for you. I remember, I think it was about 3 years ago, there was quite a dust-up here at the meetings about a member of the planning board who did not attend meetings in the winter. He was a bit of a snowbird. And I believe you were among the people who got up here and spoke about why was this man being paid, why was this man still on the board when he was not actually participating. Do you hold yourself to the same standard?
Of course.
Have you been to every meeting since you've been sworn in?
Absolutely.
Every workshop?
Missed one workshop.
And you missed an informational meeting last week
An informational meeting?
about Orange Avenue.
An emergency meeting that was called?
It was not an emergency meeting.
Well, that's what it was billed as, so, unless you know differently, but it was an emergency meeting.
Well, the reason I bring it up is it's something that I regret not doing when I was on the board, and I would like the current board to contemplate something that I guess we can call the 48 rule. When you're elected for 2 years, 24 months, a workshop, and a village board meeting. Your only obligation to this village is those 48 meetings. I don't think it's asking too much of anybody to actually be here for those 48 meetings.
You're probably right. You know, I'm going to give you that. It's a shame you didn't have those same sentiments when you were sitting on the board.
I just said I regret not doing it when I was here, because I didn't miss any meetings when I was here.
Think how we get a conscience when it's not involving us. It's amazing how we get a conscience when we're not dealing with the problem any longer. Those are the same sentiments you should have brought when you were sitting on the board.
You're absolutely right.
That's right.
But those are the same sentiments that you brought when you were standing here.
Let me clarify it this way everybody understands it fully. Yes, I was in Florida, and I have flown back to I couldn't make one workshop meeting, but I've flown back and forth to make workshop and village board meetings. Is there any other thing that I'm missing that you know of?
No, but this also applies to Judge Byrne.
Excuse me?
This also applies to Judge Byrne.
Well, when Judge Byrne there, you speak to Judge Byrne.
Oh, I will.
Well, that's your
Don't worry.
prerogative, absolutely.
Mr. Morris, you also should I don't know if anybody made you aware of this, but I'm just thinking about it now, and I should probably tell you, that in order for you to get your credits into the retirement system, you have to put in...
I'm not in the retirement system, I waived it.
You waived it, okay. Just...
Thank you, Board. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Okay, is there anybody else? We will move along.
Village clerk.
Village clerk.
First thing we have, Mayor, is the approval of the meeting of, oh, wait, I have to skip that. Special board meeting of February the 3rd.
Wait, hold on. Ladies and gentlemen, I just want to let you know we are not approving the minutes for the regular board meeting for September 8th or September 23rd, as Mr. Hagen and I are the only two here who can vote on them, and Mr. Byrne is not here, so we do not have 3 votes, so we will have to do them at a future meeting.
You want to wait until they get out?
No, you can go.
Okay. Approval of the minutes of the special board meeting of February the 3rd.
We were all here for that.
Yes, yes. I think we were all here, just one.
Yes, you were.
Yeah, we were all here. Do I have a motion?
So I'll make a motion on it.
Do I have a second?
Second.
All in favor?
February 3rd.
Aye.
Opposed? So moved.
This is information, the Suffern Farmers Market will be opening May the 2nd, and it's going to be at parking lot A. I think they start at 9 o'clock. Then we have the third one is a request from, I think, Emmanuel Zavaki to be added to the village list for electrical inspectors.
Do I have a motion?
He was recommended by our building department.
Do I have a motion?
Yeah, make a motion.
Do I have a second?
What are we on now? Sorry. My ear is plugged.
Is that Frank?
We have a motion for the electrical inspector. I need a second.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? So moved.
That's it,
We all
Mayor.
have sidebars.
Thank
Mayor,
you.
Not just,
Finance Department, Mr. Janito. No sidebars.
Thank you, Mayor. Yeah, we have three things on the agenda. The first one is a resolution to award a contract to an actuary for the other post-employment benefits valuation.
Do I have a motion?
I'll make the motion, even if it's 5 years late, I'll make it.
Do I have a
10 times.
second?
Better late than never.
Do I have a second?
Second, yes.
Mr. Morris?
Yes.
Mr. Hagen?
Yes.
Thank you. Mr. Markunas?
Yes.
And I vote yes, motion is carried.
We also want to set dates for a public hearing on the water and sewer rate increases for the next year.
May I have a motion to set a public hearing?
April 6th at what time?
April 6th
Oh,
at
April 6th, okay.
7:55. No?
Can it be the same day as the regular meeting?
Yeah, it has to be at the regular meeting.
So that's April 2nd.
That's what we just said.
No,
it's April 6th.
Six.
April 6th.
Oh, I'm
The second
sorry.
is the workshop.
Oh, excuse me. I'm sorry.
April 6th, all right.
Yes.
I'll move it.
Okay, do I have a second?
Second.
Sorry about that.
All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed?
April
So moved.
I didn't get the answer. That's April.
And last, we have an authorization, I believe is what it is, an approval by the board to utilize Rockland Community College's internship program for various projects in the village.
Do I have a motion?
Motion.
Do I have a second?
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? So moved.
And Mike, you had four, the request to, a resolution requesting that the Senate and Assembly bill drafters prepare the...
Yes, the budget deficit financing bill that we get authorization from the board to allow that legislation to go forward.
Do I have a motion?
Make a motion.
Motion.
Do I have a second?
Second.
Mr. Morris?
Yes.
Mr. Hagen?
Yes.
Mr. Markunas?
Yes.
And I vote yes, motion is carried.
Thank you.
Thank you. Trustees.
Trustees. What do we got, trustees?
Well, I think just to clarify some points, we discussed the removal of the cars in the workshop, and in executive session, we kicked it around, and the workshop is a place for that discussion to happen. In the...
Yeah, just...
I'm sorry. Yeah, we discussed the car situation, and we were informed that in some instances it's contractual. At any rate, we came to a consensus there will be certain restrictions put on the use of the cars, and hopefully within a week or so there'll be a policy, and a review of the cars that have taken home will be reviewed at that time, and make sure that whoever does take a car home is in compliance with the policy that was never written, and we hope to get within a couple of weeks. Is one thing. I gotta put on my glasses. The other question came up about the Financial Review Board, that we sought to have review our finances. Unfortunately, most people didn't read what that board does. There is nothing, when you sign up to have that board's assistance, and the reason we asked to have it is, again, it's another opinion. I can speak for myself. I'm not an accountant. And probably most of those issues are foreign to me, as they would be to most people. So we don't understand all the ramifications. You heard the two accountants talking tonight, and all of us never heard of GASB. At any rate, we looked at the Financial Review Board because over the years, the financial planning that's gone on in the village has been terrible. Otherwise, we wouldn't be in this position. We thought that talking and bringing in, the Financial Review Board is made up of 10 people, 10 professionals. And we thought that this was a good opportunity to bring in somebody else who might have a fresh perspective. But it seems this information was put out to the people, and right away, the idea was that we were looking to consolidate, we were looking to do away with departments, any number of things. If you on Facebook, you know what I'm talking about. The truth of the matter is that when you go to the Financial Review Board, There's a criteria that you must meet to be selected by the review board, and that depends on your financial condition. We didn't have to apply, we were automatically eligible for their review. Now, when you do their review, they will come up with any number of proposals. Maybe it's budgeting practices, I really have no idea, maybe a different way to finance things. Again, I'm not an accountant, but I've always found that it's never a bad idea to get as much information as you can. So, yes, we wanted the Financial Review Board to come in. Mike has presented a plan. Tom says he had a plan, we don't know what that is, but Mike had a plan, and I can see absolutely nothing wrong with having somebody else come in with a plan. Are we forced to abide by any of their plans or decisions? Absolutely not. They will make recommendations. It's our decision whether or not we accept those recommendations. Should we accept those recommendations for certain things that might, let's say a grant or a loan, they could put restrictions on that. Let's say you needed $3 million for ABC. They could say, well, okay, we're going to give you $3 million and you're going to have to implement ABC. But again, it's a strictly voluntary program. We might have looked at their proposals and said, well, this doesn't really make sense to any of us. We might have reviewed it with Mike and he would have punched holes in it or said he agrees with it. We don't know. But again, the worst thing is that we didn't give it an opportunity. And when you look at the hole that we're in, I mean, we're going to be kind and say $2.5 million. I would probably, if I was a betting person, bet it's going to go over $3 million. And it's going to result in a serious tax raise to every homeowner in Suffern. We can all go, well, we don't want to do this, we don't want. Make no mistake, your sewer rates are going up, your water rates are going up as they've gone up over the past couple of years, and you're going to be faced with a major tax increase. The accounting from last year, we got money back from the state. Whatever the check was, everybody got various amounts. Well, that was because it was kept under the cap. But in reality, we didn't keep it under the cap. We were over. I don't think that the state will ask us to get that money back, I don't know. But the point being is that, again, it was another error that's caused a problem for us. We were $700,000 over what the 2% cap was. So that was our reasons for going to this board. And, you know, I'm hard-pressed to understand why anybody would have any opposition to this, just to gain a little knowledge and insight and see what they might have recommended or what they proposed to help us out of this. The other piece of misinformation that conveniently gets put out over Facebook and the other areas of social media by some enlightened souls is the constant references to, if you participated with this financial review board, St. Lawrence was going to come in and take over everything. At no place does the town have any input in this plan. The town has no say-so in this financial review board. There was nothing ever mentioned at any meeting, and bring up the minutes if you can find them all. There was never ever any reference made to taking any department or any personnel and moving them to the town of Ramapo or asking Ramapo to take over. We simply said, let's talk to the review board, let's send them what they requested in our finances, because in all truthfulness, 2013 audit isn't done. 2014 isn't done, and 2015, well, it's not ready yet. But my point being is that we had nothing to gain, nothing to lose, and everything to gain by getting a third opinion about our finances. That's all I got to say.
Thank you. Okay, I'm going to go on to 120 Orange Avenue. As you all of you most know, that we will adjourn that to the next meeting. Also, the Squires Gate buyout. We were told initially that the closing date for the program was the last day of February. A few days before the end of January, I received an email saying, no, not February, January. So I quickly sent up all of the interested parties from the Squires Gate area in the buyout program who attended the meetings. We sent your information up to get you in the system. This board will be meeting sometime this week to decide whether we're going to go ahead with the buyout program or not. But if I did not send those names up to the New York Rising and get you into the system, if in fact that the village went forward with the program, you would not be included in it. So it does not bind you to the program. It just says that if in fact the village does go forward, your name is in the system if you choose to go forward with the program. So that's where we are at right now with the buyout program. And that is all I have. Does anybody have anything else? I'm going to be doing a special board meeting. I know that the trustees have hard pressured me to appoint a deputy mayor. I appointed Mr. Hagen, just to update you where I am on this. I appointed Mr. Hagen, who declined. I appointed Mr. Byrne at the last meeting, who last week sent me an email declining. I received an email from Mr. Morris asking me to take his name out for consideration for deputy mayor, which leads you to believe that there's one person that they've chosen to be deputy mayor. I have some reservations about that at this point in time. I am working with the Conference of Mayors to resolve that issue. I just heard from Mr. Byrne last week. I will be working with them this week to resolve that, and I will be calling a special meeting to do that appointment as soon as I have it all worked out with the Conference of Mayors. So I will not be appointing a deputy mayor tonight, and those of you who have said that I broke the law and not appointed one, well, I did try twice, and I would have tried a third time, but that person sent their, to withdraw their name. So I guess this is what you would call extraordinary circumstances that I'm going to have to work through, and even the Conference of Mayors have really never seen such a circumstance before. So I will continue to work on it, and at some point, hopefully, we will have a deputy mayor. If there's no other business, can I have a motion to adjourn, please?
I make a motion to adjourn.
Do I have a second?
Yes.
All in favor? Opposed?